Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Greetings of peace, mercy, and blessings, everyone. Welcome back to Alhambra Studio Foundation. This is Aziz Live 360. This video is part of All About Calligraphy series. Last week, we covered a brief history of Arabic or Islamic calligraphy, and the goal today is to help you learn how to carve your own calligraphy qalam pen by the end of this video, inshallah. This is where I make art, including wood burning, wood carving, calligraphy with scroll saw, and other things pertaining to art and calligraphy. These are examples of bamboo sticks. These are not reeds, by the way. People confuse reed and bamboo sticks, which is woody, hollow, round, straight, jointed stem, etc. All of which actually are in the tribe. Reeds, on the other hand, are solid and somewhat expensive. The difference actually is in the price. While you might buy a stack of bamboo for 10 bucks, one good quality reed qalam can actually be costly. So these stacks were originally very long, 12 to 18 feet long. Bamboo plants have been used throughout history to make writing materials. Anyone can make a qalam pen out of bamboo stick. It's easy and quite simple, and all it requires is some practice. The beauty of it to me is the idea of walking to the end of my property by the river and just harvest some bamboo sticks in order to make writing tools is the coolest and the purest. To me, it's traditional. As you can see, a bamboo stick grows in these sections. These sections were originally covered by the outer covering, a thin embedded within the bamboo, such onion skin-like coverings. Once we peel the pith covering, which I already did, we get this inner stack of the bamboo, which has a touch of green to it. And that's the optimum for bamboo pens or qalam. Little green is fine, not too much green. These stacks were harvested last September, and I typically let them sit and dry for at least 6 months before I can do anything with them, and it's all quality related to the pen. The longer the season, the better. You get a quality qalam pen that is able to correlate with your touch, and even from cutting perspective, it cuts cleaner and easier, especially the points and the curves. So once you get one of these bamboo sticks, which you can find at Pakistan's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Blake Art Materials, and even Joann's sometimes carry the bamboo stacks. Or any crafting store near you, and they also have ink and calligraphy papers as well. It's necessary to know how to maintain and how to prepare your own materials, especially your ink pen and paper. A calligrapher uses a variety of pens. It really depends on the size and style of the work, so it may be a metal nib, a bone nib, or a bamboo. But for our purpose, this sort of pens are used for practicing. This is how the pen looks before it is opened. And ideally you choose one that is the width of your hand span. And then you measure around 3 to 4 fingers from the tip of the narrowest point of the reed or bamboo. As far as cutting goes, and remember it's all a preference, but what I like to do to preserve the quality of the qalam pen is find the growth ring that forms a knot. You'll notice it's very dense, whereas the fibers in the shaft are more longer and softer because the structure of the cells are more dispersed within the fibers. For that reason, I like to cut the point roughly about 2.5 to 3 inches above the growth ring, so I can have at least half an inch or so of workable point where I can make my scoop cut. And then just down from that toward the growth ring, I can make a double cut scoop, which gives greater flexibility to the point. The end result is solid foundation just before the growth ring. And depending if you're right or left-handed, you can cut so that the qalam, the pen, rests comfortably into the crooks between your index finger and the thumb. All right, let's make some qalams pen, inshallah. As you can see, this is how I cut the sections. We'll take one of these blanks, and remember, the size of the cut depends on how fine the writing you're looking for. We'll start by making a mark about 1/4 of an inch right about here, and then be sure to leave about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch for the foundation section. That is an uncut buffer before you get to the growth ring. Before I start cutting, I like to see how it feels in my hand, consider the weight of it, and I try to determine where the spine is. The spine is the back of the qalam. So whatever feels comfortable to you, and that position, make it the back of the qalam. That's the spine of the pen right here. Once you determine that, the underneath position is the opposite of this point. It is the interior of the front of the qalam, and that's where we're going to do the cut underneath. And just some safety tips before we start. Always cut away from the body. Use goggles and gloves if possible, please. Take a utility knife and find the belly mark we made of that pen and make your first scoop cut right at that line, 3/4 of an inch line. Slight scoop cut. Continue with that slow scooping motion while it's downwards and away from the body, using your thumb to support and control the knife. Be gentle. This is art that requires a lot of patience. See, while I make the initial cut through the cylinder, I am cutting through cross sections. And as I start to move towards the back of the wall, for the dorsal, in this case, the posterior, the point is starting to take shape. Don't push too hard with the knife as you approach the back side, because that will bend and possibly fracture the pen nib. You want this pen nib surface to be as structurally sound and intact as possible, because we're carving everything away from it, so that is where the action happens on that qalam tip, and the nib needs to be flexible. So as I get closer and closer, I am backing up the pressure, and I may need to support that with my finger or thumb possibly. Some people use the method of the thumb to figure out if they got the right shape. If it helps you as a beginner, take advantage of it. Turn the qalam around and shave the back of it, like so. The reason we do this, because the back of the pen or the qalam is still round, shaped, and you don't want it round. You want it straight like a marker. As you can see, the pen is starting to take shape. Next is gradually carve that tip to the thickness preference, no longer scooping down into the middle of the pen. So carve slightly to a finger point, finer point, rather than digging down into the middle. Now rotate the knife laterally, that is to the other side, with small shavings. That's all you need. Remember, it's symmetrical, so you'll find that as you make more of these qalams, you'll have to compensate for your own preference, whether you're lefty or righty, and also your comfort to be able to make something that is symmetrical. We're approaching the final step, that is cutting the qalam at 30 to 45 degrees angle using sharper utility knife. Once the tip is soft enough and flexible to move smoothly without breaking, this is the most important part of the entire process. Now we make the cut with sharper utility knife, preferred for cleaner cut. My teachers always told me to cut the end depending on the script you intend to write, because there is a difference between the qalam of nasakh and the qalam of Persia and nasta'liq. However, they are all between 30 to 45 degrees angle. As you slightly shave off the qalam, getting closer to the end result, turn it backwards and see if there is any corrections that need to be made. At the end, I'm not changing the tip at all, but I'm just shaving some of the meat off this section. You will notice the shape starts to change according to how much you shave. This is your qalam. You gotta make sure it's comfortable in your hand and that it is at your disposal. When it comes to sanding your qalam, some people use sand Dremel to clean the edges, but I would not recommend that, even if it's used at the lowest settings. Sandpapers is fine and you have more control of what you're actually doing. Now I am doing the secondary cut, which you don't have to. This is just an extra step for my preference. So midway between this first point, I am going to make another scoop cut, but a shallow scoop cut, and clean it up, turning your wrist up. Now you'll see we have two scoops, primary and secondary scoop, that serves to add flexibility to the qalam. Once you're done cutting your qalam at 30 to 45 degrees angle, you're all done. You made your first qalam. I will, inshallah, in the future videos, I will show you some of the advanced cutting techniques if anybody is interested. And also we'll do some calligraphy writing for beginners, inshallah. Till then, enjoy the rest of the video. في أمان الله ورعايته والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Greetings of peace, mercy, and blessings, everyone.